Well, let's go ahead and get to your movie for the week because I think we're going to have to spend a lot more time on this one than the other movies. There's a lot to digest here. And that movie is Tommy. Came out in 1975, PG rating, somehow. Um, 1 hour and 51-minute runtime. It is a musical. I'm going to read this. This is exactly the IMDb synopsis. A psycho, I can never say that word. Uh,
Psychopath?
no, it's psychometallic or something like that. Someone who is not actually deaf, dumb, and blind, but is psychologically,
Somatic.
yeah, somatically. A somatically deaf, dumb, and blind boy becomes a master pinball player and subsequently the figurehead of a cult. Full stop. Now that in itself is already a bridge very far for most audiences. But I like the idea. I was like, all right, cool. Musicals, I would argue, are very niche movies. And rock
Rock opera.
rock opera is a even nicher part of that niche. So this is a very, very, very niche movie. Um, Let me give you the rating: 6.6 on IMDb, 74 on the tomato meter, and 72 on the audience score. I hated this movie, but it's also one that breaks the scale for me in some respects because I have always argued that there are movies that not so bad that they're good, but there are movies that are you have to watch, you have to experience as part of the history of cinema, if you will. And I think, as much as I hated this movie, I think this still falls into that realm where it has to be watched once just for the pure experience of it.
Yes. I'm
Uh,
glad I watched it because now when people mention it, I can actually have an opinion.
so
Because
you
I've always, whenever somebody's mentioned to me before, I was like, never seen it.
right?
And they're like, "You never saw Tommy?" I was like, "No, I've never seen Tommy." Love the movie, love the one song, like love Pinball Wizard. I've always liked that song. Didn't know anything about the movie.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, let me do the positive first.
Okay,
I absolutely loved the actual Pinball Wizard scene. I did like that song. I did like Elton John's part. Um, I know the background of behind it of him telling Rod Stewart not to take the part that he ended up taking it. I know they had years. I love the fact that he wouldn't do it unless they let him have the boots. The boots were absolutely fantastic. So that scene right there was kind of interesting, and the rest of it was pretty much I don't even know what I was watching. It was just crap.
so this movie has an interesting cast. Before I get into my opinions, Oliver Reed and Margaret,
Yeah,
uh, Roger Daltrey, Elton John, Eric Clapton, Paul Nicholas, Jack Nicholson, Pete Townshend, Tina Turner. It is a eclectic cast. Um, I'll give you my positive. I really liked the song, or the song I liked the most was the one where his cousin Eddie, no, cousin Kevin, when his cousin Kevin was torturing him. That was the
I
song I liked the most, and the
don't
visuals and
remember
everything.
what song that was, but
So this is our second rock opera we have watched. We watched Repo the Genetic Opera. I prefer Repo. I think it is a
okay.
more realized world and a more, uh,
It had a direction.
yeah, it had a direction and a story. This tried to. So the idea was, if I'm getting it correctly, is Tommy, his dad, showed up after they thought he was dead,
Right.
and his mom was with a new man who I think she met at a cult. They then murder the dad. Tommy sees it and then goes into his deaf, dumb, blind thing. The rest of the movie is them dealing with Tommy and trying to correct his issues by giving him presents and making him hang out with other kids and taking him to Tina Turner to have her make him a man. And then the thing that finally works is he's in a junkyard and he plays a pinball machine, and that somehow begins the process of him becoming a human again, essentially. So, I didn't understand why he. So I get as much as I can. I get what that story is. The second part of the movie is where I really don't get the point of it because I didn't get why him becoming enlightened. Why did he want to form a cult or a religion? And why I just didn't understand that. Like, why was that his thing? Like, I understand him trying to forgive his mother. It seemed like they were trying to have a reconciliation, but I didn't understand why him and the stepdad were still an item, and there wasn't confrontation there.
If you're looking at me for answers, I got no clue.
Okay, I'm just trying to
I
just the
thought he
very
kind of
basics.
accidentally. I thought he kind of accidentally became the leader of this, and the parents just exploited that.
Is that what happened? Okay,
No, I don't
maybe.
know. That was my take on it,
I,
but
I
that might be because I just watched something else similar to that. I'm trying to think of what the heck it was.
so the way I gathered it was him and the mom reconciled and truly believed in it. And she believed in it because she wanted to connect with her son. And he did believe in peace and love and all that. And then the stepdad was using it to explain. That was what I got. Um, this movie, here's how I would describe this movie. If you want to watch this movie, you need LSD in order to properly understand
right.
everything occurring. If you're going to make this movie, you take LSD and you go into a little tiny closet and then you smell your own farts for like 24 hours because clearly the Who thought very highly of themselves and their opinions on the world, and this is the very definition of 70s and 60s hippie trash. And this is why that this decade plus should be erased from history because none of it makes any sense. It is visually very, I don't want to say stunning. There is a lot happening visually, and they are certainly trying to be artistic and make a point of some sort.
What was the movie that we watched and reviewed where they were trying to repair? They were trying to repair all the tubes were hanging out in the different layers of the. You could look up and see the apartments up above and the big tube.
Brazil?
Brazil. This
Yeah,
reminds me of a lot of Brazil.
I said that. So my wife watched some of this with me, and I told her, I said, this is kind of like Brazil. But
Yeah.
here's the thing Brazil has a plot, and
Yeah,
Brazil
yeah,
has a more realized world, and Brazil has an actual message.
yeah. This was just the Who making a movie.
This was like if the artistic ideas of Brazil were given to an amateur, and then they said, do this in music video form.
Right. Yeah, I'm so glad that I was born in 68, so that this time period of movies and culture was when I was in elementary school and all before I became aware of things. I'm so glad that it's the 80s that I went to high school and watched movies, and because these movies would have warped my mind.
Yeah, there's a couple things we need to talk about in this movie, in addition to what we've already mentioned. Um, okay, three things. One, did his uncle try and rape him?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I gathered from that scene too. Two, Tina Turner's scene, the Acid Queen. I understand the point of the scene was she was going to lay him into manhood and into enlightenment. I get that. Why was he in an Iron Maiden outfit with syringes of blood everywhere? What did that have to do with some kind of artsy metaphorical version of sex?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay. Because I understood the point of the scene, I just didn't understand the execution of the scene.
Like you said, lots
Well,
of drugs.
lots of drugs. Lots of drugs are bad, kids. And okay, why was there a church devoted to Marilyn Monroe that was trying to do the same thing he would do later, which is help out the disabled and the blind and the deaf? And why was there a church with Marilyn Monroe as the idol?
And it was next door to the church of Jane Mansfield. So
I just
I have no idea.
okay.
Again, I'm not sure what the writing process was in this and how they sat down and why this was, but it had to be lots of drugs. It had to be just very self-indulgent, like you point out. I think they thought that they could just throw anything, but I have a feeling they watched it and loved it. They probably thought this was a masterpiece.
Yes,
I
they
would love
did.
to ask Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey now watching it because, but I want to hook them up to a lie detector test because I think they're clean and I think they've grown a lot and they're a lot older. I'd like them to watch it and I'd like them to answer questions as to
What
what
is
we think it.
what's happening here?
Yeah,
Um, there are a couple more things we have to discuss. One, Jack Nicholson is in this movie. Didn't know he could sing. He actually did a pretty good job with his singing.
right.
Apparently, I believe they wanted Christopher Lee originally for that role, but he was busy doing something. That would have been better. Actually, I think Christopher Lee's darker tones and voice would have worked great for this.
Yeah,
Uh, but Nicholson did great. We have to talk about a particular scene. We've talked about a lot of very. This is also there is no point to this movie. It's just scenes, music video scene, and they kind of anyway. There's
yeah. I thought this movie was going to just be about him getting to a pinball, going through like a pinball tournament and
yeah
beating the pinball. When the pinball wizard scene showed up, I'm looking at the time going, well, what's going to happen after this? He's going to beat the pinball wizard and it's done.
yeah I same thing. I was expecting much more pinball in this movie. Um, that was not the case.
I
Also,
guess
no
because
one
that's
talked.
the only song I knew and the only plot part of it I knew.
Well, also there's like 12. The first 12 minutes of this movie, no one talks. It's just scenery and music and anyway. We have to talk about a very important thing.
All right.
There is a scene in this movie where Anne Margaret is watching television, and there's a commercial for some beans, Rex beans or Queen beans, I don't know, some beans. And she is at the point where she's having her mental breakdown with her dealing with her son. And I think she throws something at the TV, soap comes out, and then a giant like the Shining, elevator scene with blood, but that comes out. But in this time, it's beans, and
Yes.
then the half sexy, half crazy rolls around in the beans like it's a pudding fighting contest. And then pudding comes, and then she does the same thing there. But it looks like shit, so it looks like she's rolling around in shit. Um, Now, apparently, the director basically mentioned that he earlier in his career he had done some commercials for some kind of bean and for some kind of pudding or something, and
Right.
this was like a fuck you to them, basically, or back, a little inside joke for himself. But just it's a scene where she's rolling around sexually in a big giant vat, or not vat, just area of beans. Just thought we should have to talk about that. That exists.
Again, I think this falls under self-indulgence, which I see. I actually, this is one of the scenes I read up on. I actually tried to go to multiple sources and figure out if I was missing something because I got that she was going crazy, but there's a lot of different better ways to show somebody going crazy than this. I all I read was I know that a lot of it was Anne Margaret kind of
Yeah.
ad libbed a lot of it. She just kind of went with it, which kind of scared me a little more that she, she was so good at that. Um, yeah, I have no idea. I don't even know if this was in the original. Was this ever on stage? Because I was thinking this was on stage even.
I believe this was a play first.
See, and I mean that's where I don't like Mamma Mia. I get that's. I mean, not that it's a complete rock opera, but it's definitely they do most of their acting through lyrics. Although there is some dialogue in it here and there. But it was a play, and you can make a movie out of it. I don't understand how this was ever on stage. I don't know how they pulled most of this off.
Um, what? Because this is closer to your era than mine. I know like two Who songs, or excuse me, the Who. What is your opinion of the Who as a band in general?
I don't know a whole lot of their stuff to be honest. I probably know the same ones you do. I
Yeah,
know
My
uh,
Generation.
My Generation. I know Who Are You.
Yeah,
Um,
but
and that I probably had forgotten about until CSI came out and it became their theme. Um, I know. Let's see what else do I know about the Who. I know they were one of the first big bands that were known for just completely trashing the stage. They tore up speakers. They tore up the all their sets. They tore. I don't know how much it cost. Their tours must have been ridiculous because they broke their. Of course, they broke the guitars. Pete Townshend's very famous for breaking his guitars during the performances. The only other thing I know about them, they were in a famous incident in Cincinnati, I think it was. The Who kind of led to uh, getting rid of general admission. Long time ago, when you bought tickets to a concert, there was not seating; it was general admission. First come, first serve. How you piled in, that's how you piled in. And they had a really bad stampede in Cincinnati and killed a bunch of people.
mm,
And kind of after that, all the arenas went to general seating where you had to buy it early and quick if you wanted front because you get stuck.
were were they that big of a deal to deserve getting a movie?
At one time, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah, one time I would say, um, in my opinion, it's the Beatles, the Stones, and the Who. That's kind of
okay.
the way. Now, in my opinion, of course, it's the Rolling Stones, then the Beatles, because I'm a Stones person, not a Beatles.
It's
But I would say the imports. That's kind of the way it would go.
okay. See, it's always hard for me to place them because I know the Stones, I know the Beatles, and then there's like this gap in my knowledge, and then it's like AC/DC, Metallica,
Right.
the '80s bands, and there's just like
Yeah, they kind of came in right around the same time after, but yeah, you had kind of the easygoing Beatles, then you had kind of the little crazier Stones, And then this was the Metallica version of the Stones. This was the hard rock version.
Okay.
And they were, I mean, they're known just for doing. I mean, they would do their songs, but they would break into these like 20-minute drum and guitar solos that just went and went and went and went and just. I mean, if you watch any of their old things, they all are just blitzed out of their mind. You can just see it.
Well, I have an opinion of them after watching this movie, and it's that they fucking suck.
Well, listen to some of their stuff away from this. They definitely were not meant to be movie makers. You might find some more of their songs that were. I don't. I mean, there's always bands that people praise. Pink Floyd. I don't get Pink Floyd. And if you want to watch another one of these kind of movies, watch The Wall.
Okay.
I would suggest you pick up a bong, because unless you got yourself something to take with it, it's going to be just like this. You're going to end up think you're losing your mind that somebody put this out, ran it by executives, and they thought, oh, this is fantastic. Let's put this out on screen. It's just nuts.
To be fair, the estimated budget was $5 million, and it made 34.
Well, there you go. And that's when ticket prices were $1.
So
yeah, I don't know. I'm so surprised that I knew so little about this movie. I had always heard about it, and it probably does come just from that song. I always liked the song "Pinball Wizard." I always liked Elton John's version. I don't know. It was weird. It was crazy. It was nonsensical.
Everyone, you have to watch this movie. You have to experience it. You're not going to like it. You're not going to know what's happening. But you have to experience this movie because there's no words. There's nothing we have said in this last few minutes that can truly summarize or give you the effect of Tommy. And it's just that simple. It transcends explanation.
It once again is one of those shitty ass 70s.
Just wipe the decade from history.
I just don't. Yeah, I cannot connect to the 70s.
Oh, okay. Well, that was Tommy.